Have you ever been wrongly accused by somebody? It could have been in a work or a personal situation, or maybe even on the internet, where somebody misunderstood your intention or spread lies about you. What do you do?
So do you become enraged? Do you shout and scream? Do you block and delete them from real life and from the internet? Or maybe you shut down and start to doubt yourself. And then come those really self-judgmental questions like, could they be right? Today's video, we're going to bring you helpful and practical tips and tools about this common boundary challenge that our clients have faced.
My name is Sandy Weiner, and I've been a dating and relationship coach for 10 years. I help women over 40 own their worth, live their best life, and attract in toe-curling love. I'm also the co-creator of the Boundaries for Beautiful Relationships transformational program.
Hi, and I'm Teresa Byrne, also the co-creator of the Boundaries for Beautiful Relationships. With my background in psychology and social work, and as a 4th degree black belt master instructor in martial arts, adrenal stress training, and self-defense, I teach people physical and emotional boundaries that work for all of their relationships. And over the past 17 years, I've trained people how to harness that inner power so they can take control of their lives and find freedom using boundaries and systems.
In today's video, we're going to be talking about false accusations. Those times when you've been wrongly accused or lied about. Or how about when somebody has questioned your character? How do you handle that?
Oy. We'll each be sharing personal stories about false accusations and how we've dealt with them in the past. Then we'll show you some options for what you could do next time if this ever comes up for you, that you're wrongly accused, and we're going to give you our process.
So I'm going to share a story that happened to me, and this is a business story. A number of years ago, I was falsely accused of plagiarism by a dating coach, a big dating coach in this industry, who accused me of ripping him off. And I was very insecure at the time, and I was like, I was apologetic and felt really bad, and because I started to question, is this true? Did I really do this? Well, it happened again and again. And the last time it happened, he was so out of line that I ended up hiring a lawyer to help me write a cease and desist letter. His accusations were so false, but by this time, I had the confidence to know that I wasn't copying him, that what he was accusing me of was stuff that every dating coach talks about, and the language that we use is so similar that you can't accuse somebody of falsely plagiarizing you when I haven't used his words word for word. It was really scary because I thought that he was going to take my whole career down. He threatened me. And thank God after the lawyer stepped in, he stepped down.
I'm proud of you for how you handled it.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. When I was in college, I had a boyfriend, and I asked him to go on a trip. And after the trip, we broke up. And what I found out later was he had been telling a mutual contact of ours, who happened to be my brother, that I had manipulated him into going on this trip. Well, all of a sudden, I just felt really embarrassed, and I felt ashamed because did I really manipulate this guy? Had I somehow, by asking to have a vacation with him, was I somehow responsible for creating this atmosphere of manipulation? And the worst part of it was, and the breakup was fine, but the worst part of it was my brother and I lost communication for 7 months because he believed it about what this other fellow was saying about me. And once I realized it and kind of went through it in my head and processed it, and I thought to myself, how could I manipulate a grown man into going on vacation simply by asking, simply by saying, hey, let's do this together. Let's go on a vacation. How is that manipulative? And even though I didn't understand how it could be manipulative, he definitely thought it was, his perception was. And the honest truth is, I never addressed it with him. I didn't believe there was anything for me to do other than waste my breath because he had a perception of me that I didn't think was true. And eventually I spoke to my brother about it, and I said the same thing that I had come to. how could I manipulate a grown man into going on vacation? And how does that make me manipulative by asking to do something with him? I don't get it. And in the long run, I'm very glad that I never addressed it, that I didn't need to do anything with it. But it still hurts me that my brother, for that period of time, and I were basically estranged. And just so you know today, that you don't have to take notes when we go through the process, which we're going to go through next, on how to deal with some of these false accusations and situations. We're going to have a cheat sheet made available for you. Yay, us. So you can be present and you don't have to take notes.
Yep. So, and there'll be a button at the bottom of this so that you can just click on it and get your cheat sheet. So I just want to say, Teresa, you're like the last person I would ever consider to be manipulative. And this was an obvious false accusation and a defamation of your character. And in the two situations that we shared, one, I had to speak up and it was a business situation. And in Teresa's case, she did not have to speak up and she's glad she didn't. So we're going to share our method with you so that you can process when you're feeling wrongly accused, falsely accused, so you can really get clarity. Because when you're in that initial stage of, oh my God, somebody just said this horrible thing to me or accused me of something or spread lies about me. And, you know, with the internet, people can spread lies really quickly and really defame your character. So we want to help you with our process. And we use a process called stop, drop, and roll. And so the process is to stop and take a breath. And we're going to go into each part of it. Then you want to drop into your body and notice what you're feeling. And then you want to roll forward into taking action or not taking action, depending on the case. So Teresa, let's start with the beginning here. How do we start?
So the first thing in stop, drop, and roll is stop. And when you're hit with a false accusation, a lie, or the realization someone is spreading rumors or untruths about you, you're going to have an adrenal reaction. You're going to be feeling like you got slapped or socked in the gut. And it's okay to have that reaction. In fact, it's quite normal. But what we train our clients to do is to feel that wow breath. Feel that breath of, wow, really? And allow yourself to feel it and then exhale. If you don't take this time to just feel it and you move right into action, reaction, what you're doing is engaging a fight. So if someone says something to you, you're going to say something right back, or you're furiously typing on the internet, and you might not do something that you would want to do later when you process. You have more ability to have a response instead of a reaction. So you might fight back, you might flee and run away, or oftentimes you might freeze and not know what to do. Allowing yourself that time to stop and just feel that wow breath, wow, gives you the next step, which is roll. Sandy's going to talk about that.
So at the next step, you're going to notice the sensations in your body. What's really important about this step is that we tend to become that sensation. Like, oh my God, they falsely accused me and I must be a horrible person. You know, that often we have all that self-doubt that comes in. So when you just notice what's your body doing? Because your body has so much intelligence. And so where do you feel it in your body? Do you feel clenched fists? Do you feel your jaw tightening? Do you feel like your breath is shallow? You know, so really get those feelings. Maybe you feel it in the pit of your stomach. And this is like the canary in the coal mine. These are the signs that when in the future, once you've really worked through all these, as soon as your fists clench, your throat tightens, any of those things happen, you're going to be warned, trigger, I've got to slow this down. I've got to take that wow breath. And then I've got to go to the next step, Teresa.
The next step is also you're going to roll into and name your feelings. So first there is the physiological feeling response. We'll have the adrenaline and then we'll have the body sensations. And then we're going to move into what is this feeling? What is it? How do I name it? And then Sandy brought up a beautiful point. We're going to say, I'm noticing a feeling of. So you're not going to say, I am angry, because you're not anger itself incarnate, but you're going to say, I'm noticing a feeling of anger. I'm noticing a feeling of shame. I'm noticing a feeling of embarrassment. I'm noticing a feeling of frustration. I'm noticing a feeling of shock. You're going to allow yourself to bring the cognitive awareness to name that feeling.
And it's such an important piece, this noticing and not becoming. So the next thing that often happens is we get very self-judgmental. We start questioning ourselves, and it's not helpful to do this. So we might, if you notice questions coming up like, what did I do to cause this? Or how could I have done that? Every time those questions come up, I want you to go back to noticing those feelings of shame, judgment, shock, embarrassment. Just notice them. They're almost like clouds floating by. Just notice.
It's beautiful. The next piece is learn how to ask helpful questions. So, how did I make this happen? What did I do? Not helpful questions. But helpful question would be, is it true? Is this something that's true about me? Did I actually do this thing? Or is there some kernel of truth in that? And if it is true, if I was actually manipulative, or my boyfriend, if we decided to continue a relationship, said or felt that I was manipulative, then it would be time to open a collaborative conversation. If you're in a relationship with someone, collaborative conversation would be something where you create that boundary. Instead of having them be name calling to you, like calling you manipulative or you're psycho, or whatever the name calling, you're a plagiarist, whatever the name is, set that boundary and you back into the feelings and you talk about how you want to be spoken to in the future. In the future, if you find a behavior that I have manipulative, let's talk about it, because that's not my intent. And I apologize if that's how it came out. But set those boundaries and have that conversation that the two of you can have together if you decide it is a conversation that you want.
So we talk about boundaries for beautiful relationships. If we can have these kinds of conversations, it makes our relationships beautiful. Really, I love it. So sometimes it's not true. So we need to decide if it's true, do what Teresa said. If it's not true, we can still open a collaborative conversation sometimes and set a boundary. So we might want to say, I don't appreciate being falsely accused of something. I'm curious about what you meant by that. So you have a conversation where you're opening the conversation up. You're not creating a wall. You're not accusing them. You're not being defensive.
And that's the next point. Watch out for getting defensive. So it's really easy when someone calls you a name or pushes your buttons, and all of this is about triggers. And we'll go into that further in the Boundaries for Beautiful Relationships course. But when you're triggered because of a false accusation, try not to get defensive, because then you get into explaining energy, proving energy, all this other stuff that you don't need to take on. But what you can do is get curious about what prompted that accusation. What was the inciting incident? What happened? And it might be a conversation that you want to have with another person, or it might be the thinking that you're having on your own. Because sometimes, honestly, a false accusation or an accusation from someone else that you are a certain way or you've done a certain thing might just be based on them. Literally, it's either their perception or they're having a really bad day and they are taking it out on you. And you're going to set that boundary and say, that's not okay. Now you need to decide, when do I speak up?
And there's such good information here. And I know people who forget to eat and they get really nasty, or they haven't slept enough and they take it out on you, or they just broke up with their boyfriend, so they're mad at you, but they're not really mad at you. So if somebody has a bad day at work, it's also, that's the boundary setting. Like, you had a bad day, please don't take it out on me. So there are times also when we don't speak up. And when do you know how to not speak up? So that I would say that when you're dealing with a narcissist or somebody who's toxic to you, and they don't get it, like, you could talk to you're blue in the face and they will never, ever get it. or there's nothing to gain by having the conversation. When you really know that in your heart, you just got to process it for yourself and let it go.
I can't agree with Sandy more. Being able to process it for yourself is really what matters here, and setting your own boundaries, even if they're boundaries in your thinking. And I have to tell you, just because someone accuses you of something falsely, it doesn't make it true. So just because someone has called you a name, even if it's you're too much or you're too that, it doesn't make it true. And you don't have to defend against it just because it's something else that was triggered by another person. You get to decide, is this relationship worth it? And do I want to continue having this relationship? Or is what they see about me and their perception not something that I want to play into?
So true. So we just gave you our stop, drop, and roll method. And if you found it useful, please put it into practice and share this with your friends. And stay tuned for our weekly videos every week leading up to our launch of our Boundaries course in March.
And make sure that you put some comments around us. Let us know what you think. And if you put it into practice, let us know how it works for you. Or if you've been falsely accused and you have other practices that really work for you, let us know, because I'll tell you what, we all learn from each other. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.